That's it, folks. It's over. They are done. Whatever aspect of Harry and Meghan's life you look at, you realise that their goose is cooked. They are in deep, deep trouble.
What is happening in our country and in our state has been absolutely devastating. And I wasn't sure what I could say to you. I wanted to say the right thing, and I was really nervous that I wouldn't, or that it would get picked apart, and I realized the only wrong thing to say is to say nothing.
The big winner of the annual NAACP Image Awards was announced ahead of tonight's BET broadcast, and let's just say, it's already stirring up conversation. Now, I understand something. For some people, the names Harry and Meghan automatically trigger eye rolls. But this moment, it deserves more than a quick reaction. It deserves a closer look. Because what we're really talking about here isn't just an award. It's the broader conversation around influence, power, and what many critics describe as institutional gaslighting. And that's where things get serious. There are voices out there accusing certain public figures of pushing radical ideologies, claims that they want to reshape foundational principles like the Constitution, not for progress, but for control. Heavy accusations, explosive even, and yet those claims are being repeated more and more across political commentary circles. Then there's CFI Noble, a figure praised by Barack Obama and serving as an Aspen Institute commissioner alongside Prince Harry. Her supporters call her influential and bold. Her critics call her divisive and accuse her of amplifying controversial narratives, particularly alongside Christopher Bouzy. Either way, her reputation carries weight. What makes this even more striking is Prince Harry's own past comments, including when he referred to the First Amendment as bonkers back in 2020. That statement alone sparked outrage at the time. So when you place it alongside today's free speech debates, especially after Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter, people see contradictions. Before Musk, some argue censorship concerns were ignored. After Musk, suddenly free speech became the headline issue. That perceived double standard is fueling accusations of hypocrisy. And that's where critics say the real issue lies. Not just in what's being said, but in who holds influence. They argue the danger isn't volume. It's leverage. It's the ability to shape narratives, institutions, and public perception without accountability. For some commentators, this has escalated beyond celebrity gossip. They frame it as something bigger, even suggesting it brushes up against national security implications. Whether that's an exaggeration or not, it shows how heated the rhetoric has become. But let's pivot for a moment. I recently came across a piece in Star magazine. Yes, that same outlet Meghan has often been linked to in media speculation. This time, though, the story took an unexpected turn. Instead of focusing directly on Meghan, it pointed toward Prince William. And the cover? Dramatic is an understatement. Meghan was front and center, in a photo that clearly wasn't flattering. Cross-eyed, mid-expression, completely unpolished. Now, let's be realistic. If Meghan had personally fed that story, would she have approved that image for the cover? Highly unlikely. Whatever else you think about her, media control has always been part of the narrative surrounding her brand. That photo choice alone raises questions. And that's the bigger theme here. Perception versus reality. Public image versus private influence. Awards versus accusations. Because in today's climate, nothing is just surface level anymore. Everything is narrative. Everything is strategy. And every move, especially from people with global platforms, comes with consequences. The headline screams, it's over on their 10-year anniversary. He moves to protect his $60 million fortune as she shields the kids inside their shattered Hollywood dream in the moment that tore them apart. That's explosive stuff. Whatever's going down behind the scenes, it's looking messy, emotional, and way deeper than what's on the surface. Harry and Meghan, the words alone bring drama, trust issues, and straight-up betrayal. A brand new bombshell book is throwing shade on their version of events, shaking up everything the Duke and Duchess of Sussex have claimed so far. They're under the microscope again, facing rising pressure and what looks like a marriage standing right at crossroads. It's wild. This whole saga feels like a long-running soap opera that just refuses to end. Hopefully, there won't be a next season because, honestly, watching their faces dominate every headline day after day is exhausting. Entertaining, sure, but still total chaos. Now let's get into it. Royalty really does recognize royalty, right? Prince Harry and Meghan were all smiles at the NBA All-Star Game inside the brand new Intuit Dome in Inglewood, California on February 15th. Sitting next to Grammy winner Queen Latifah, surrounded by Barack and Michelle Obama, Oscar nominee Tiana Taylor, and Destiny's Child's very own Kelly Rowland. The energy was star-studded. Cameras didn't miss a thing as Meghan was spotted rubbing Harry's arm and nudging him to wave at fans. Sweet moment, but you could feel the performance vibe. It looked like yet another perfect night out. The kind of polished public display they've been serving up ever since ditching royal life in the UK for California Spotlight 6 years ago. That us against the world image they love to project is in full swing, and a source even told Star that they make sure to play it up in public every chance they get. But behind the smiles and fancy seats, tension is brewing. Royal expert Russell Myers is about to drop a tell-all titled William and Catherine, the monarchy's new era, the inside story, hitting shelves March 10th, and the book reportedly calls out key parts of Harry and Meghan's narrative, especially their falling out with the royal family, and that icy feud with Prince William and Princess Catherine. Looks like the royal drama is far from cooling off. If anything, it's about to explode again. The book all but accuses Harry and Meghan of flat-out lying, and just when it seemed like their American dream was supposed to be golden, it's now starting to crack. Meghan's career stumbles mixed with Harry's sudden interest in possibly reconnecting with the royal family. That combo's got people talking nonstop. A source even said the hits keep on coming, and they're not wrong. But the Sussex's rep told Star that all these rumors about marriage problems are totally and utterly false. Still, when there's that much smoke, it's hard for people not to wonder what's really going on. Now here's where it gets interesting, because I've got a theory about who's actually behind the Star magazine cover story. My bet? Russell Myers. The same Russell Myers who's part of the Mirror's royal team and has that new book dropping March 10th about Princess Catherine and Prince William. And I'll be honest, just my opinion, but it's giving major indirect communication vibes. The same way Meghan allegedly used Omid Scobie to float her side of things. I think Catherine and William may be using Russell Myers to push theirs. It's subtle but strategic. And here's the twist. It's rare for the Sussexes to comment at all when stories like this come out. Usually they stay silent. So the fact that their rep actually spoke up this time, saying the story was utterly false, really tells me they're not the ones who planted it. That's a clue all by itself. Back to the book. It's clearly written with a Prince and Princess of Wales angle, and it's reopening wounds that never fully healed. Myers' upcoming release reportedly refutes some of Harry and 44-year-old Meghan's most dramatic claims, including the explosive moment in Harry's 2023 tell-all spare, where he described Prince William allegedly getting physical during a fight over Meghan's supposed mistreatment of palace staff. That part alone reignited a firestorm, and this new book is about to pour even more gasoline on it. She's denied every bit of the bullying accusations, but according to what one insider told the author, Harry's story, especially the part where he claimed William knocked him to the floor, was massively overblown. One of the problems, critics argue, if you are Prince Harry, is that you don't always think several steps ahead before doing things. And honestly, that's something most people can relate to. You get angry, you speak out of turn, you misunderstand the situation, and in the heat of the moment you say the wrong thing. Normally that would just fade into memory, but when you're Harry, it's documented, it's global, it's permanent. What might have been a private argument, you're getting on my nerves, or I'm tired of this, suddenly becomes a headline dissected on the world stage, and once it's out there you can't pull it back. The insider reportedly dismissed a dramatic version of events as a cheap shot, saying yes, things got heated, yes, words were exchanged, yes, tempers flared and maybe regrets followed, but there was no physical altercation, and William is apparently standing firm on that version. That detail alone speaks volumes because it strongly suggests a serious argument did take place between the brothers, allegedly sparked by concerns surrounding Meghan's behavior. But the implication in this new telling is that Harry may have taken a kernel of truth and reshaped it into something far more cinematic, a Hollywood-style retelling designed to maximize impact. It feeds into the broader criticism that whenever Harry and Meghan share their side, there's often a small grain of truth wrapped in layers of emotional amplification. Myers' book goes further, tracing the unraveling back to 2020 when Harry and Meghan officially stepped down from royal duties, And according to his account, Catherine didn't fight their departure as aggressively as William reportedly did. In fact, she allegedly saw it as inevitable. For years, she had been portrayed as a steady presence between the brothers, the mediator, the calming influence trying to preserve unity. But even she, the book suggests, eventually recognized that the widening gap couldn't be bridged. The deeper issue, Myers argues, was the long-standing heir and spare dynamic embedded within the monarchy structure, with Harry born into the role of the spare and no longer content playing second position, wanting greater purpose, more visibility, and a stronger voice. Ambitions the royal framework simply wasn't designed to accommodate. That imbalance, according to this perspective, was always destined to erupt sooner or later. And when everything finally did explode, particularly after the 2021 interview, in which Harry and Meghan alleged that an unnamed royal had raised concerns about their unborn child's skin color, trust reportedly fractured beyond repair. From Catherine's point of view as described in the book, the situation crossed into territory that required extreme caution moving forward, meaning any future interaction would need to be carefully controlled and measured because forgiveness may exist, but trust is another matter entirely. What's clear is that the fallout wasn't limited to one explosive moment, because the Oprah interview didn't just spark controversy, it fundamentally altered relationships. It wasn't simply a revealing conversation. It was a global media event that reshaped public perception of the monarchy and the Sussexes alike, and after that the dynamic changed permanently. According to those close to the situation, this isn't about lingering hurt feelings or one bad chapter. It's deeper than that now, it's personal. And once family conflict reaches that level under the glare of international scrutiny, there's no easy path back to what once was. Think about it. Meghan publicly accused someone in the royal family of racism, and that alone sent shockwaves across the world. But it was only one piece of a much larger and far more complicated conflict. Over the years, there have been repeated moments where critics felt Harry and Meghan were subtly undercutting or embarrassing William and Catherine, whether through interviews, documentaries, or carefully timed revelations. So at this stage, for some observers, the issue isn't even about trust anymore. It's about personal boundaries and security. The tension is described as being so deep that William and Catherine are believed to prefer strict distance, unwilling to risk further private matters becoming public headlines. Both were reportedly deeply hurt by the accusations, particularly Harry's suggestion that his brother was trapped within the royal system. That comment struck a nerve. Catherine, too, was said to have been especially upset when Meghan revisited their private disagreement about the bridesmaid dresses before the 2018 wedding, reframing the long-circulated narrative by saying she'd been the one who cried, not Kate. That reversal reshaped public perception overnight and, to critics, felt unnecessary and damaging. In the court of public opinion, moments like that don't just fade, they linger. Now, with renewed media focus, the pressure on the Sussexes seems heavier than ever. Their post-royal chapter in California, which began with optimism and bold promises of independence, hasn't unfolded as smoothly as expected, settled in their $14.6 million Montecito home and raising Archie and Lilibet. They've tried to craft a new identity outside the monarchy, yet controversy continues to resurface. Each attempt at a reset appears to be met with another reminder of unresolved tensions from the past. Financial independence was a major pillar of their departure, but several high-profile ventures have struggled to meet expectations. Meghan's Netflix lifestyle series, with Love, Meghan, reportedly failed to gain enough traction after 2 seasons to justify continuation, while her lifestyle brand, American Riviera Orchard, has yet to fully materialize beyond early announcements. Their earlier podcast partnership dissolved, and reports suggest their widely discussed Netflix agreement shifted from a large-scale production deal to a more limited first-look arrangement. Even projects that generated early excitement, such as the documentary Cookie Queens, received praise at Sundance yet did not immediately secure distribution, leaving supporters questioning momentum. Adding to the difficult optics, London's Hub Community Kitchen, a charitable initiative Meghan supported in 2018, closed its doors, prompting mixed reactions and renewed scrutiny despite the complex realities charities often face. Meanwhile, behind palace walls, there have reportedly been cautious efforts to ease tensions between Harry and his father, King Charles III. After an extended period of limited contact, they met privately in London, signaling at least a willingness to reopen communication. Insiders characterize the meeting as emotional yet careful, a step forward, though far from a full reconciliation. Harry has since spoken about prioritizing family, suggesting reflection may be setting in as his father continues health treatment following a cancer diagnosis. For Meghan, observers speculate this evolving dynamic could stir complicated emotions, especially given her own estrangement from her father and her past claims of feeling unsupported during her time within the institution. She has openly discussed reaching a profoundly difficult emotional state amid intense media scrutiny, alleging palace aides failed to shield her from harsh press coverage. Those experiences remain part of her narrative and continue to shape public debate. Now, as Harry gradually reconnects with his royal roots, questions arise about what that means for their shared future. Some believe he will always carry a deep connection to his heritage, regardless of physical distance from the monarchy. If so, their path forward may depend on reconciling independence with identity, a balance far more complex than slogans about breaking free. After years of bold declarations about carving out a new life, confronting that reality could indeed be one of the hardest challenges yet. And let's be real, Meghan isn't someone who would quietly step aside if Harry ever seriously considered drifting back toward his royal roots. Any genuine move in that direction would likely spark major tension. It's difficult for critics to imagine her simply allowing that shift, especially without a clearly defined future waiting on the other side. The emotional bond between them has always appeared intense, and even the suggestion of Harry standing once again on the Buckingham Palace balcony would ignite global headlines overnight. Some commentators speculate that if circumstances ever became that serious, the pressure surrounding Harry, from all sides, could push him toward a breaking point, not necessarily out of ill intent, but because of the sheer weight of expectations, influence, and scrutiny that seem to follow his every move. Through all of this, one issue reportedly remains central for him: long-term security in the United Kingdom. Whether that means physical protection, peace of mind, or a symbolic sense of belonging, he appears to be searching for stability in a life that has rarely slowed down. By late 2025, discussions about reviewing his security arrangements reportedly resurfaced, fueling speculation that the possibility of a more formal royal return, even temporarily, could be on the table. Sources cited in tabloids have claimed Harry had considered traveling back to Britain around Easter, potentially with his family, though such reports remain unconfirmed. Meghan, however, is frequently described as deeply reluctant to re-engage with royal life, particularly after her last visit to UK for Queen Elizabeth II's funeral in 2022. According to past interviews, she associates that chapter of her life with intense media hostility and emotional strain, making any return complicated. If Harry were to travel alone, that image in itself would invite interpretation and debate about where their relationship stands. This year also marks a decade since they first met, a milestone that inevitably prompts reflection. Public speculation about their marriage has grown louder, though much of it remains just that, speculation. Financially, reports have long estimated Harry's personal inheritance to include funds from Princess Diana and the Queen Mother, but exact figures are rarely confirmed in official documents. Notably, the couple did not sign a prenuptial agreement, which under California law could have implications in the unlikely event of separation, as marital earnings are typically subject to equal division. Still, there is no verified indication that such steps are imminent. Professional setbacks, however, are easier to quantify. Several of their media ventures have faced restructuring or cancellation, and the shift in tone around their brand has been noticeable. What once felt like a bold reinvention in America has encountered the realities of a competitive entertainment landscape. Every public appearance is now analyzed for hidden meaning. During recent overseas engagements, observers commented on perceived differences in demeanor between the two. Harry appearing reserved in serious and humanitarian settings, Meghan more visibly media-ready and poised for cameras. Interpretations of body language can be subjective, yet they often fuel broader narratives about power dynamics and image control. Reports of former staff departures have also circulated widely in tabloids, sometimes framed dramatically as evidence of internal strain, though turnover in high-profile operations is not uncommon. Ultimately, much of what is said remains filtered through unnamed sources and commentary, rather than confirmed fact. What is undeniable is that Harry and Meghan continue to operate under extraordinary scrutiny. Every gesture, glance, or travel decision becomes a headline, whether they're navigating marital tension, professional recalibration, or simply the complexities of public life. The spotlight remains relentless, and in that glare, even ordinary moments can be interpreted as signs of something far larger unfolding behind the scenes. Observers are now openly saying that the chemistry, which once felt electric between Harry and Meghan, appears strained and performative. During their recent visit to Jordan, that perception only intensified. Jordan is a country deeply rooted in tradition, protocol, and visible respect for hierarchy, and in that environment, optics matter. With Harry being royal by birth, those symbolic dynamics carry cultural weight. Some commentators argued that moments where Meghan stepped forward ahead of him seemed out of sync with expected formality, potentially creating awkwardness in a setting where ceremonial order is significant. Harry's facial expressions in certain clips were widely analyzed online, with viewers interpreting visible discomfort. It was one of those public appearances where body language became the headline. In footage from the trip, particularly during formal photo opportunities with officials and dignitaries, social media users dissected brief interactions between the couple. In one moment, Meghan reached for Harry's arm as they prepared for a group photograph. Critics described the exchange as tense, pointing to what they perceived as frustration in Harry's expression. Supporters, however, argued that short clips can be misleading and that public figures often appear serious during diplomatic engagements. Still, the narrative that their dynamic feels different than before continues to gain traction. Every glance, every pause, every gesture is now scrutinized frame by frame. For a couple already under intense public observation, even minor movements become amplified signals. Speculation has also surrounded the purpose of the Jordan visit itself. Some commentators suggested it may have been a strategic effort to reinforce humanitarian credentials or align with influential regional advocates connected to international aid efforts. Others propose that Harry could be aiming to demonstrate to UK officials that he remains capable of handling international responsibilities in a diplomatic context. These interpretations remain speculative, yet they reflect a broader debate about his long-term intentions regarding Britain. The question of security continues to loom large in discussions about his future visits to the UK, and any overseas engagement inevitably fuels theories about positioning and credibility. Political commentary has further complicated the conversation. Harry and Meghan have been perceived by some observers as more aligned with progressive political circles in both the United States and the United Kingdom. In Britain, figures within the Labour Party, broadly comparable in ideology to the Democratic Party in the U.S., are sometimes mentioned in connection with discussions about policy and public life. Yvette Cooper, for example, is a senior British politician who has held key governmental roles related to domestic and international affairs. While there is no verified evidence of any special arrangement, commentators speculate about how political relationships could influence conversations around security reviews or official standing. Such claims, however, remain in the realm of opinion rather than confirmed fact. Timing has also fueled online debate. Harry's presence in the Middle East around periods of heightened regional tension prompted some to question whether his travels intersect symbolically with Britain's long-standing diplomatic relationships in the region. King Charles III, as head of state, has historical and ceremonial ties to Middle Eastern leaders, reflecting decades of diplomatic engagement between the UK and Gulf nations. However, drawing direct connections between Harry's independent travel and official state matters requires caution, as he no longer represents a monarchy in an official governmental capacity. What's undeniable is that the spotlight on Harry and Meghan is not dimmed. Public appearances that might once have passed quietly now ignite waves of interpretation. Body language becomes political analysis. Travel becomes strategy. Silence becomes meaning. Whether the tension viewers believe they see reflects reality or projection, the couple remains at the center of a narrative that blends celebrity, royalty, politics, and personal evolution. And in that environment, even the smallest moment can be framed as evidence of something far larger unfolding beneath the surface. But since Donald Trump's time in office, the global balance has been shifting noticeably. Trump's policies reshaped alliances and trade networks, including initiatives like the Abraham Accords, which altered diplomatic relationships across the Middle East. Naturally, this raises questions about the true purpose of Harry's recent trip to Jordan. Was it solely about humanitarian work, Or could there have been a more strategic dimension behind it? Some speculate that he might have been engaging in soft diplomacy, or even quietly gathering and passing information under the radar. While no one has definitive answers, it's clear that Harry and Meghan's global connections make them unpredictable, and in the eyes of some, potentially even risky. Their public moves always appear layered, part genuine compassion, part calculated strategy, making it increasingly difficult to discern who is truly directing the narrative. After living in the United States for 5 years, questions about Harry's real agenda have grown louder. Could the Jordan trip have had ulterior motives beyond humanitarian efforts? Some suggest political maneuvering or subtle influence behind the scenes could be factors. It might sound far-fetched, but in today's climate, few possibilities are truly off the table. Harry and Meghan have been openly critical of Donald Trump, and both have consistently emphasized their focus on image and financial ventures. This invites speculation about what opportunities or offers might have crossed their path, and whether influential figures behind the scenes might have shaped their decisions. Powerful backers, operating behind the curtain, undoubtedly play a role, adding layers of complexity and uncertainty to their actions. The key mystery remains identifying these forces and understanding their motives. Are we witnessing a public relations empire, a political strategy, or something entirely different? One thing is increasingly evident. Harry doesn't seem content. His charm appears to be waning, and he looks progressively more restless, even cornered, as each new headline hits. Observers note a sense that the walls are closing in, and that his prominence in the U.S. spotlight may be nearing its limit. Amid all this speculation, the story is far from over, and the world continues to watch, wondering what Harry's next move will be, and how Meghan will navigate the ongoing tensions that surround them both.